Year served as the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. But since then, he's gone on an onslaught against his former boss, President William Ruto, and some of the Kenya Kwanza policies. We want to gauge his mind on the current political landscape, and his vision for Kenya in terms of his political future and whatnot. So much to talk about. Rigathi Gachagua, once again, thank you so much for your time and welcoming us to your abode.
Thank you, Rogers. Once more, welcome. And I take this opportunity to thank KTN for granting me this interview to talk to the people of Kenya. And from the onset, let me send my condolences for the loss of Njoroge Mwaura, a very renowned journalist. When KTN came into being in 1991, I don't know whether you were born. Mwaura was very instrumental, and we admired him a lot, so I want to send my condolences to his family, to the KTN family, and to everybody. Otherwise, I want to say welcome, and I'm looking forward to a good conversation.
Asante, let's get right to it. And of course, we'll start with the very recent developments. You were recently in Meru. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, you launched fresh accusations against President William Ruto, alleging that he's orchestrating a plan to remove Chief Justice Martha Koome from office. Can you substantiate these claims? The claims that the purge in the Supreme Court, in the judiciary, is politically motivated?
Yes, it is. I was Deputy President and Principal Assistant to President William Ruto, and I'm privy to many things. I also have a responsibility as a leader in this country to let the people of Kenya know what is happening. President William Ruto schemed a long time ago to remove Justice Martha Koome as Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court because of refusing to be compromised.
And he shared this with you?
He shared with me, and many times he even quoted me that a daughter from the mountain is being problematic, and accused me of being unable to manage Martha Koome to do things the way the president wants. And I told him it's not possible. I had many discussions with Martha Koome, and she's a stricter to the rule of law and constitutionalism. She's a very respectable judge, very qualified, and she got that job through merit. And I was against it. And I think the matter was put on hold until I was hounded out of office. And the matter now has been put in top gear, not just to remove Martha Koome as a Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, but to remove the entire bench of the Supreme Court. And I must tell the people of Kenya that we must be very careful, because the president warns and pronounced himself before me many times that as president, he needs to manage the electoral cycle from the IBC all the way to the Supreme Court. And many times he indicated his desire to have the entire bench replaced so that he can put in place a bench that will do what he wants. And that is very dangerous for the country, because if he puts a bench that he wants to manage the conflict, if any, after the elections, the people of Kenya will not accept it. And what is happening is very simple. The president has the numbers in the Judicial Service Commission. So any proceedings against Justice Martha Koome and the 7 judges and the other 6 judges will just be a kangaroo court. It will just be like what happened to me in the Senate and the National Assembly. It will be predetermined. The president will thereafter set up a tribunal himself, and he will determine the outcome. So what we are looking at, I'm not just defending Justice Martha Koome. It's the entire bench of the Supreme Court. These are judges of impeccable credentials. These are judges with proven track record. These are judges who have made monumental decisions in accordance with the rule of law and the Constitution for the benefit of the Republic. And if the president has his way, bulldozes through the Judicial Service Commission, where he has the numbers, these judges will not get any justice. it will be a kangaroo type of thing. And then they'll give a recommendation to the president to set up a tribunal to try them. And the outcome is predetermined. So I need to ask the international community to keep a very close eye on this country, because if the president succeeds in putting his bench at the Supreme Court, he will have completed the state capture. Already as we speak, he has captured Parliament, both Senate and the National Assembly. He has captured the opposition. The only remaining line of defense for the people of Kenya is the judiciary. So if he succeeds, as he has planned, it means that the president has really captured the entire country, all the arms of government, and he'll do whatever he wants, and that level of impunity is dangerous for our democracy, our constitutionalism, and the rule of law, and we must speak out, and it should not be allowed to happen.
Okay, allow me to interject, because not too long ago, and some people may call you bluff for this, you were critical of the judiciary, which you so speak highly of currently, questioning its independence, whether there are overtures from the executive and whatnot. So why should Kenyans believe that this is
I've never had a blanket condemnation of the judiciary. I have spoken about individual cases, which is normal, and that is why when the Constitution allows appeals mechanism, so that if you are dissatisfied with a decision by the High Court, you can go to the Court of Appeal. If you are dissatisfied, you can go to the Supreme Court, because judges are human beings. They cannot be perfect 100%, but you cannot remove the entire bench of the Supreme Court. And you see what will happen is that the president will manage the appointment of the new judges through the JJC, because they are the ones who will interview and recommend for appointment. So what will happen is that if this is allowed to happen, one, is very dangerous for the country. You cannot have a vacuum where there is no Supreme Court, where an entire bench has been sent home as we process the tribunal mechanism. Again, the danger is there, because he has pronounced himself, and I have told you, he did it in my presence, that we must have a Supreme Court that we control. In fact, he told me, once you are president, it is very irresponsible for you to lose an election. You must control the election from IBC all the way to the Supreme Court. And the president is determined, and I know him.
And this was a private conversation.
But I must tell the people of Kenya, because in fact, initially I thought it was a joke. I never imagined that any president anywhere in the world would ever want to disband an entire bench of the Supreme Court. I mean, it would cause, one, a vacuum that is unacceptable, a constitutional crisis that a country can stay without a Supreme Court for a certain time. And it's a very dangerous thing, and we must not allow it to happen.
Then tell me this, Bwana Rigiji, if I can call you that. Allow me to quote you verbatim, because while in Meru, you said this: "We are telling you, if you dare plan to chase Martha Koome, stay in Nairobi and do not step in Meru again." That's just a quote from your statements, and to some people this is a threat. This is incitement of the many people against the head of state.
It is not a threat, it's not incitement. It's just a statement of fact. Many times I have offered free advice to the president. And when I was in office, I told him not to touch the mountain. I told him not to interfere with the mountain politics. I told him not to attempt to divide Mount Kenya East and West. He disregarded me, called me primitive, called me retrogressive, called me tribal, called me all manner of names. Today, it has come to pass, he has lost the mountain completely. He is traveling on the tails of Honorable Raila Odinga to sustain his government, to keep it in power. All I was doing when I was in Meru, I was not in any way threatening the president. I was just telling him a statement of fact. 90% of the people of Meru are through with him. The remaining 10%, if he goes ahead to remove Martha Koome as Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, he will lose the other 10%. So I was telling him, there is no need for you to come to Meru anymore because people, they will not be hostile, they'll be cold and indifferent.
So what happens if other leaders actually tell you, Rigathi Gachagua, you can't step in our region?
I'm not saying I didn't, I just gave him advice. I said, I did not even say he shouldn't. I said, if you remove Mother Kome.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying he has not removed her. I said, Mr. President, you are planning with your deputy, the Mr. Yesa, because they are working together. And Mr. Yesa has been given the responsibility to make sure Mother Kome is out of the job. And in fact, the meeting that was held, and I've come to get the content, is that the president argues that Mount Kenya East cannot have the presidency and head of judiciary at the same time.
Okay. Because
Mr. Yesa is in the presidency and Mother Kome is in the judiciary, the president has told Mr. Yesa, if Mother Kome is not removed so that we can take this seat to another region, you will have to go yourself. So you must make sure that Mother Kome is out. In fact, that is a responsibility has been given. All these things that are going on, the petitions, the JSC, it is Mr. Yesa who is coordinating to save his job, because the president is clear that you cannot have the presidency in Mount Kenya East and also have the president of the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice in the same area. And now I was saying, I am not threatening the president. I cannot threaten. I just told him the truth. I'm a truthful man. I was in Meru. Mr. President, you have hatched a scheme with your deputy to remove Mother Kome as Chief Justice. If you succeed, and he can succeed because he was able to remove a deputy president who is elected by 7.2 million Kenyans. So the one for Chief Justice is even much easier. Once you do that, your relationship with the people of Meru is irreparably damaged. And there is no need for you even to come to Meru because you get a very hostile reception. As we speak, the situation in that Mount Kenya East is already very bad for him. The other day he sent messages of condolence to a funeral in Embu. And the people said, we want to hear nothing about it. He has not been to Meru. Meru is worse than Embu for him. If he succeeds now in removing Mother Kome, the people of Meru will even be more wild. They will be more hostile. And I was saying, Mr. President, because you don't listen.
Okay.
I tried to advise you, you did not listen to me. Now you are struggling. You are begging Raila Odinga to save you, to hold your government together. You are going home unless Raila holds your hand. And even if he does, I don't think he'll help you. If you go ahead with this scheme with your Mr. Yesa and succeed in removing Mother Kome, if you dare come to Meru, you will have a reception that is very cold, that is very indifferent, and it's not good. And why I was saying that, why do I say that, Rogers? The institution of the presidency is very important for this country, and is a symbol of national unity. And the president should be able to go everywhere in the country and get good reception. When people start refusing to listen to condolence messages from our president, it really demeans the institution of the presidency. I would one day want to be president. I would want that institution to be held in high esteem. So it is also my duty as a citizen. It is civic duty. Where I find the institution of the presidency will be demeaned by acts of the president, to advise him to think twice of removing Justice Mother Kome. Again, I also want to advise him, please stop disbanding the Supreme Court. It is not good for the country. It will create problems. People will have serious doubts about the 2027 general elections, because if you put a bench that you have crafted, we already start going to the elections with a lot of doubts. And once people don't believe a process will be fair, we start on bad footing, and that is not good for the country.
So let me ask you this, and perhaps just to quote the words of the current Deputy President, Professor Kindiki, who you're referring to as Mr. Yesa, perhaps reflecting on the headlines on The Standard. He said this in response to your statements in Meru. He questioned Who defends the judges who may be innocent but do not have ethnic godfathers? Perhaps hinting that, the judiciary is apolitical. Politicians shouldn't perhaps interfere with the runnings of this independent arm.
Mr. Yesa cannot have a different opinion. He is an employee of President William Ruto. President William Ruto wants to remove Martha Koome and the other 6 judges from the Supreme Court. So his work is to defend, but automatically.
But the question...
But I'm asking, he's trying to say that my defense of Martha Koome is ethnic. I want to ask Mr. Yesa, when I said that the Director General of the National Intelligence Service is incompetent, members of the Somali community came out with fury to defend him. I never heard Mr. Yesa say that that is ethnicity. When ODM